Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. That's how I tend to start off all my meetings, welcoming everyone who comes as I believe they are a literal divine creation, a marvelous, glorious miracle. So these gatherings are based around the teachings of Bruno Groening, who said that what he was teaching was just the teachings of Jesus Christ. And Bruno Groening was very adamant that we are all children of God, that we are all really, those are his exact words, a divine creation and a divine marvel, meaning the German word is Wunder, meaning something wonderful, something that moves us to awe and wonder. Let's really sit with that a moment. We go through our days and we see all these other people, and out of habit, I know I personally had, and I'm now breaking that habit, I'm not in awe of every person I see. If we really, pardon, there's a little background noise, one moment. If we really reflect on what we are, if we reflect on the amazing bodies that we've been given, if we reflect on our capacity to think and feel and create, our capacity to dream, we just might begin to, when I think about all that, I'm in awe of myself and every other being. And I truly am able to believe that what Bruno Groening said is true. He said, everything that God created is divine. That we are these magical, wondrous things. Human being nowadays just means like another kind of animal. In fact, the scientific word Homo sapien, it really, I don't know the exact Latin meaning. If anyone has it, please put it up. In essence, it's just like we're just one more animal. Yet, Bruno Groening said that God is everywhere and lives in everything, and that we as human beings are very, very special, precious creation. So let's begin to view ourselves and others that way, as truly a miraculous creation of God. And let's let go of our ideas of what we thought God is and take on the idea of God as infinite, limitless goodness, love, the animating principle of life itself. And that we are literally a reflection of that. That we are like, in some ways, we're like that which made us. So a warm welcome to everyone joining in live. And warm welcome to everyone watching the recording of this video. And as these divine creations, Bruno Groening pointed out that we're utterly dependent on the divine. As humans, we know we're dependent on air, but most of us have forgotten that we're actually, in a very similar way, dependent on God. And given that it's March 2020 and things are happening in the world as they're happening, here's some words of Bruno Groening that really, I think, are very timely. You must not be afraid of disaster. You have, after all, the duty and obligation to immediately establish the connection with God, and God will hold his protecting hand over you. When I sometimes think about the things Bruno Groening taught, I imagine that on a spiritual level, what he taught, it's almost like he went around being like, you human beings have an obligation to breathe. You've forgotten this. Because we've forgotten something as fundamental as breathing. That there is a sacred, holy reality, being, our maker. We can call it by different names. We can argue about its nature, but Bruno Groening kept it very simple and said it is goodness and love. In fact, he said it is nicht unmöglich, which is German, which means nothing impossible. He said, Gott ist nicht unmöglich. God is nothing impossible, which I translate as God is limitless possibility, infinity. Isn't that what infinity is? Limitless possibility. And not only is there this great reality, but it's more importantly, it's available to help us in every situation. So a human being who goes through life, as a human being, we need to breathe. Can you imagine a human being who goes through life trying to live like this? I'm hoping you can hear it, okay? Sure, they would live. They wouldn't live well. They certainly wouldn't be living up. They wouldn't be living in harmony with their nature. They wouldn't be living to their full capacity. In essence, they wouldn't really be alive. They'd be biologically alive, but they'd just kind of be scraping by. This is how Bruno spoke about our need for God. Just an utter need and dependence. So one of the things he spoke of is that there is that not only is there this infinite reality, it's available to help. And part of how it helps is it sends constantly this divine healing life energy that we can take in. And Bruno Groening gave us a very simple way to take this in. He called it Einstellen, which means to attune or to take in, to focus. It actually means to position ourselves in an upright position. But to me, it mostly just means to attune ourselves to the frequency of this healing energy. So let's do that now. It's very simple. Please sit with your legs uncrossed, feet flat on the floor, hands on your legs, palms facing upwards, back in an upright position, not slouched and not stiff. Then please close your eyes and now put behind you all burdens, all worries, all illness. Literally put it aside mentally to the point where you don't even have the thought that you have that problem anymore. For example, if you have a headache right now, please put aside the headache. Put aside the thought, I have a headache. Oh, something's wrong. Oh, it's going to get worse. All such thoughts. The sensations may remain, but put aside the idea of illness. Now think about your healing. Put our entire attention on our healing of our body coming back into divine order, into what's natural, health, happiness, and harmony. And then ask in whatever way feels right to you, to God, to higher power, to a spiritual helper you trust, to receive the healing stream, the divine energy, the divine power, and observe your body with that intention, with that will to receive. Now, every sensation you feel has nothing to do with illness anymore. unless you've taken on the back on the thought of illness, in which case we need to give it away again. Every sensation now is a step towards your recovery. So observing the body with the intention to take this energy in, with that view that every sensation is a movement towards health and healing. Noticing what you feel, seeing every sensation as a healing in process. So we're at such an interesting point in human history. It's, you know, other than maybe, during the Cold War of 1950s, when there was fear of a nuclear, um, maybe no other time except for that has there been so much fear in the world. What is the antidote to fear? Well, Bruno Groening put it quite simply. Fear is evil and comes from evil. Many people have a problem with the word evil. I did when I first found this teaching. But Bruno Groening didn't speak of evil in human terms. He spoke of evil as that which is harmful to life, that which seeks to destroy what is good. He spoke of evil almost as if a consciousness or an energy, even a being. He went so far as to say that the devil actually does exist. Whether you believe that or not, it's not so important. Um, at least let me put it this way. When I first found this path, I could not believe that at all. I thought that was ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. However, over time, what I've started to see is that there very much is a destructive force at work. So, how you think of it, maybe not so important, but the recognition that there is a consciousness or an energy or a being that is literally seeking to destroy this planet and to make life hell on earth. The recognition of that is essential. Why is it essential? Because all the problems in the world, all the problems we're facing individually are nothing but symptoms of this one thing. For example, if let's say someone goes to the doctor and says, "Oh, doctor, I've got headaches, I'm not sleeping well, and I've got acid indigestion." And the doctor says, "Okay, well, here's a muscle relaxant for the tension. Here's here's a sleeping pill for the not sleeping well, and take some Tums. Take an antacid for the acid indigestion." They're like, "Oh, thank you, doctor. Thank you so much." And then they take those things, and those symptoms disappear, but then a new set of symptoms appear. And they go to the doctor and they say, "Oh, doctor, now I have ringing in my ears, and now I have, I don't know, now I have swollen feet." And the doctor's, "Okay, we'll do this for that. And, for the ringing in the ears, try this. And, for the swollen feet, maybe some physical therapy would be helpful." And so the person goes and does those, and those symptoms get better. And then a week later, they die. Why did they die? Well, because actually what the person had in this case was cancer, and the doctor was treating the symptoms. If you just treat the effects and not the cause, you're never going to remove the cause. And the cause will just keep sending out more, in this case, more and different kinds of illnesses. Same with life in general. If we don't understand the root cause of all problems, we're going to spend all of our time taking psych meds, doing journaling, going for exercise routine, changing our diet, taking supplements, doing biofeedback, doing plant medicines, going to yoga classes. All those things I think are healthy and good and have their time and place. Not knocking any one of those, but there's the recognition. Bruno Groening called us, as did Christ, to the recognition that underneath all the problems that we're trying to treat with all these different things. And again, I'm not advising anyone to not do one of those things. But like our dear friend Bruno Groening, I am asking people to reflect on, okay, well, let's just say, I'm just going to make someone up. Like someone has addictions, and they have codependence, and they have depression, and they have relationship trouble, and they have a sore back. And so, they go to yoga, they go to Codependence Anonymous, they do psychotherapy, they take anti-medication, psych medication, an antidepressant, and they exercise more. I think all those things are fine. And if you feel called to do them, do them. And we need to recognize that all those things are symptoms. And if we don't treat the cause, and let's say you do that whole self-care regime, and all those things come into balance or are become non-issues. Since we haven't treated the cause, evil, and we'll talk about the definition of evil in a moment, a new set of symptoms is going to appear. And so then what happens? Then you have to go chase after all the new symptoms and come up with a new self-help routine. And then as you take time away from the old self-help routine and put on the new self-help routine, then those old symptoms are going to probably appear again. So that's an example of someone seeking personal wellness, but the same principle applies to health, to life situations and to life on earth as a whole. If we do not get at what's underneath all these problems, and that's why Bruno Groening was adamant. He would not let people talk to him about a specific illness because it's not necessary. It's like the person in my example who goes to the doctor and like, oh, doctor, I have, you know, I don't even remember the example I used, oh, I have this symptom, and oh, I have insomnia, and oh, my swollen feet. And so in a doctor's case, it's a little different, but there's no need you go to a doctor and you talk about your symptoms, and a good doctor will then diagnose and get at the cause. This isn't necessary on the spiritual path as taught by Bruno Groening to get to look at all the symptoms because the cause is already known. The cause is evil. Everything not good comes from evil. We know the cause, and hence we know the solution. God and a spiritual way of living. This is not a religion. This is not a belief system. It's not about saying, oh, I believe nothing is incurable, and so you're done. This is about living these principles moment by moment. Bruno Groening pointed out, this is the other reason why it's so necessary to be aware of evil. He said, evil will constantly attack. His exact words. Evil will continuously try to pull you off the good path. It's not one of the fun aspects of being in a body on earth, but it is the supreme, according to Bruno Groening, a high spiritual opportunity to grow, to face evil moment by moment, and to rise above it. So let's take a little time and take in some of this good energy, which helps us, is essential in this Krieg, the German word, struggle, fight, battle, war with evil, that we're all fighting individually and we are all fighting as a race. Observing your body. Taking in the good. Noticing what you feel and now interpreting it. We used to interpret, all these, especially uncomfortable sensations as something wrong. Now it's a healing in process. So here's a quote from Bruno Groening. This is from page 84, Powers of the Spirit. Let go of everything that is not good. Let go of despair, of mourning and hopelessness. The earth is divine by nature and therefore has God's protection. Evil is not able to destroy it and never will be. What other people prophesize should not trouble you. The only thing that is important for you is yourself and your own lives in these bodies that God has given you as a gift. You must find your own path to the great return and recognize and accomplish the task that has been assigned to you in this life. It's not I, little me, meaning Bruno Groening, that's important, and no other human being is important for you either. When it's a matter of doing what is right, you are all on your own. If you would like to obtain health and healing, it is up to you and what you really want. It is absolutely no use at all to know about a lot of unimportant things and to forget about yourself and your own body. But rejoice in life and receive each new day full of gratitude. So I opened the book at random, and that's the page I came to. That's how the divine energy and Bruno Groening works. Is he is available, absolutely available to help. But that's it. He's only available to help. He can't do it for us. We have to do it. With his help, with the help of God, it's a lot easier. You know, the more often I ask Bruno for help, the more often I pray. Well, it just reminds me, one of my favorite quotes. The harder I work, the luckier I seem to get. The more often we ask for grace, the more grace we receive. You know, sadly, some people have been taught that, or given the impression that, you know, Bruno Groening in essence is a religion. Just go to Bruno Groening, give him your problems, go to community hour, tune in a little bit every day, and that's it. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Bruno Groening said, if you want to experience the divine, you have to strive for it. And Bruno is here to help us and to help us even strive. And this isn't about, well, I think Bruno said it so clearly that it's up to each one of us. That in terms of our own path, we're the most important one. It's hard for me to say that because without Bruno Groening and his help in these teachings, I would be dead. And Bruno Groening did say, I am with you always. He said, I'm not just saying this, really believe it. And if I'm not open to receive Bruno Groening's help, I could have Bruno Sorry, friends, I knew that call was coming. So I could have every master around me. And if I'm not open, all they can do is just help a little. They can help me get to the place of being open. So I need to pause here. And I'm going to be doing a lot of these meetings. Please keep coming back. Keep striving. Keep asking for help. And I'm sorry to stop so suddenly. I was hoping this call, well, I wasn't. I was just, my apologies to stop so suddenly. And take care. And I'll see and feel you all very soon. Much love.